think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. I think I can still say good morning. I hope that everyone has enjoyed what I think so far has been an absolutely fantastic meeting. And I have no doubt that our next talk is going to continue that tradition. I have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Farley. David was born in Portage, Wisconsin. And as you can see from these pictures, he was clearly a very happy baby and young boy. I think that this picture on the bottom right really tells us who David Farley is. And I think that it shows to us that he has aged very well. Virtually every picture that I found of him has this same smile and the classic Farley haircut. David led an idyllic, sports-filled childhood. His father was a football coach, and his family moved with the success of his father's football teams, from Portage to Sparta to Racine and finally to River Falls. These are all small towns in Wisconsin. You can see on the bottom left David in the middle, in the front row there, flanked by his older brother Steve and his younger brother Mike, with his mom, Mike and Ray. And on the right, you can see him playing baseball with his brothers. I hope that nobody pitched a ball at that point, because if they both swung a bat at the same time, there'd be a couple of emergency room visits. This was a very sporting family. Again, his father, Mike, was a football coach. He also played professional baseball. His mom, Ray, won 20 golf club championships. His older brother, Steve, was a scholarship pitcher at the University of Minnesota. His younger brother, Mike, was a Division III football player at River Falls in Wisconsin and actually had a brief stint with the Packers. I'll touch on David in just a bit. First, his pre-surgical education. David was co-valedictorian at River Falls High School. He followed that up by graduating Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then went on to stay in Madison for medical school. However, he was not only an exceptional student, he was a fantastic athlete. He was the four-year captain on the UW golf team. He won 31 different amateur golf tournaments, including the Wisconsin State Amateur. He owns 4 separate course records, and most importantly, he met his wife, Kathy, on a golf course. Family was and is very important to David. You can see here in the picture on the left him with his wife, Kathy, their sons, Thomas and Ben, and daughter, Samantha, and his daughter-in-law, Katie. On the right, I have taken the liberty of calling Kathy a true Wisconsin sportswoman, showing her prowess with a 7-point buck. Unfortunately, Kathy could not be with us today because she is literally helping to fight forest fires. Again, family is very important, and for David, surely his granddaughter Maddie is the apple of his eye. David spent his entire career at the Mayo Clinic. He did his general surgery residency there, including some endocrine research. He was a Mayo Foundation scholar and studied in Mannheim, Germany. He was on staff at the clinic from 1994 through 2019, his retirement. His clinical focus was in endocrine and MIS, and his academic focus was on surgical simulation and education. David has checked every box as being a leader in surgery at his institution and throughout the country. He was a professor of surgery at the Mayo Medical School. He was their program director at the Mayo Clinic from 1996 through 2011. He won 16 Teacher of the Year awards. He's held leadership positions in a number of surgical organizations, including ours. He's published more than 300 papers and more than 20 book chapters, and he has given countless regional, national, and international presentations. Now, a little bit of the good stuff. I was able to talk to some of David's trainees and get a few nuggets of information. One of the residents said that some of the trainees thought he was so serious that he was dull. However, when they finished their training, they came to realize and know a funny, outgoing person, and only then realized how lucky they were to have him as their program director. I did not know this, but he operated solely with an intern for his entire career. Think about that. Every case, watching somebody learn how to tie a knot, throw a stitch, that would drive most of us in the room bonkers. I'm sure it drove him bonkers at times, but teaching was clearly his passion, and that is manifest by those Teacher of the Year awards. One of the trainees commented that he was a master of efficiency, and it is rumored that he would grade the intern on his service by the number of steps it took to complete rounds. The fewer the steps, the higher the grade. He also was a master of efficiency in podium presentations. And when somebody was up here talking, trying to load a video and it didn't work, and they commented, "Well, I swear it worked on my laptop," that raised the hair on the back of his neck. His trainees did like to have a little bit of fun with him. David apparently liked to have a pen at the ready outside of his operating room. So what they did was they placed a whole bunch of plastic bovie cases next to the operating room and put a pen in each one of them so that there would never be a shortage of pens for him coming out of his cases. This picture on the bottom right looks to me like he's trying to jump out of his office window. Now, I don't know if that's the accumulation of 25 years of frustration as a surgeon as things have become more administrative and less patient-oriented, or if it's because he had to operate with an intern all the time, or if it's because when I was the recorder, we had the EVISE system. And the EVISE system would send out its own alerts about paper submission, and then I would do the same as reminders. And I did that a couple of times to David when he was very nice to review papers for me, but I never got his email replies, and he finally got one through to me through the system, which basically said he was at his wit's end because he had submitted the paper 5 times. So that may have thrown him over the edge. The last slide, I think only David and maybe one other person in this room can really appreciate, and I'm going to try to explain it to you. So David apparently had a nice office at the clinic, pretty big, it had a great view. One of his trainees, who became a junior partner of his, had the good fortune of taking over his office. And his trainee told me that early in taking over the office that it was hot as heck in that office. He tried to turn the thermostat down on the wall, it didn't work. He called the facilities people, they could not turn the temperature down. But he found a note in the desk. And that note said, "Hot enough for you? Find the secret panel." So he was tapping on the walls and the cabinets and found a secret panel with a thermostat set to 90 degrees. So that was a very moving present to one of his trainees. So I have not lived up to being a master of efficiency for David. He said 3 minutes, no more. I've taken the liberty to go a little bit beyond that, but he is clearly deserving of that, and I want to thank him for his leadership in leading the Midwest Surgical Association over the course of the last year. David?
Very kind, Jeff, very kind. I'm pumped up. I feel like I have a pheochromocytoma. But I got to do a few things first before I give my talk. And now I don't know how to work this thing up front. No. I have a couple disclosures. I work for the American College of Surgeons, Incision Care, and Fundamental VR as a surgical educator consultant. I am a biased surgical educator, and although I do work for the American Board of Surgery, Dr. Mellinger doesn't pay me a dime. And everything that I say today will be, my thoughts are my own. Some of these pictures are repetitious, but that repetition is the mother of learning. I should spend an hour or two on thanking everybody, but truthfully, my mom and dad asked their 3 sons to shoot for their dreams, and I love them dearly, and I just lost them not that long ago. My older and younger brother were fantastic competitors to push and pull me to academic success and kick my butt enough times to make me a little bit humble from time to time. As Jeff mentioned, the love of my life, Kathy, is fighting fires right now in northern Minnesota. We're ablaze up there because we were way short on water. But she and I have raised a family, and we absolutely love our kids. Thomas, Ben, and Sam, and Katie's our new daughter-in-law, and Maddie is a granddaughter, and we got another on the way. I can't believe how special that is to me, but I really do want to thank my better half, because 80-hour weeks, violating those for the last 30-some years, it's tough. It's not easy, and I can't thank her enough for time, effort, support, and love. I should also thank my mentors. I have 3 of them. I have hundreds of people that have helped me, but I've got 3 mentors. My uncle, Harrison, who's alive at age 92, let me watch surgery as an 8th grader and has been a wonderful mentor and sounding board for a long time. Dr. John Van Heerden has been a mentor at the Mayo Clinic, and I can't thank him enough for helping me find my niche in surgery and academic surgery. And Mike Sarr as well at Mayo Clinic. Those 3 mentors, a person couldn't have a better person to stand on their shoulders. I've got dozens, if not hundreds, of colleagues at the Mayo Clinic that have helped me out and make me a better surgeon and a better educator. I should also point out that my secretary of 23 years, Linda, I need her in retirement because I can't get the damn thing done. It's just phenomenal. I had a nurse, Sue, for 16 years. It was amazing. I had program coordinators, Judy and Teresa, for 15 years. Kept me doing things and doing them right. But you can be really efficient when you surround yourself with quality people. Mayo has a unique setup in the operating room. We have technicians and scrub nurses. They are phenomenal. As much teaching as I thought I was doing, somebody like Dean Fiedler was teaching my trainees and my interns a lot more than I was. And then I had a surgical education research group that I was lucky to be a part of. They were young and they were energetic and made every day fun to work with, and made the last 10 years of my career at Mayo absolutely special. And I have to thank this organization. This is one of the highlights of my career. I can't thank you enough. Members and guests, I've been here for 25 years, and our family came here like the Godellis family, and they aged with it, and it's fun. And now they're all gone, and that makes me sad, but I live vicariously through your kids, Dean. The membership, the committees, the executive council, and my 2 sisters, Margie and Jill, that work for Let Us Planet. They're the sisters I never had. I can't thank you folks enough for the support that you've given me, and I also thank the people from the Central Surgical. You honor me by your presence here today. Thank you. The last people that I want to honor and thank are the trainees that work with me. I have my own way of doing things. I was persnickety, and I know I wasn't perfect, but I tried hard with the 500-plus interns that I worked with over my 25 years. But they've kept up with me, they stayed with me, and it's really fun to operate with interns and then 4 years later see them as chief residents, and they actually can tie a knot at that point. So ladies and gentlemen, let me speak about being better in 2021. As a surgical educator, I don't know really anything else that I have to say beyond what's gone in this meeting. I agree, it's been phenomenal. I've learned some things today that was absolutely special. The presidential addresses, 3 of them I've heard, have been fantastic. I don't know that this one's going to be fantastic, but I'm here to be your coach. I'm here to be your halftime pep talk because we've got some stuff to accomplish. So I'm going to give a talk that I wish somebody would have given to me back in 1988 as I was finishing up medical school and starting my surgical training. Well, that talk, I hope, will be useful to you. Now, therefore, you're going to be the learner, so I need you to pay attention, okay? That's going to be important. And I'm going to tell you the whole aim of my talk right off the get-go. There are 3 key attributes that we need to do for surgical education. 3 key factors. You need to praise your learner's effort, and I'm going to use some helpers to help me tell you why that is. You need to offer them detailed feedback, and I'm asked for Anders Ericsson's help. And I'm going to ask you to repeat their challenges every day. Don't give up on your learners. I know you're all time constrained, but it doesn't take much. 60 seconds, a sentence here, a word there, a positive look. You can do it. And I'm going to list the support of some professors in UCLA and a Wash U professor as well. But before I get started, I want to say it's nice to be the Teacher of the Year, and I know all of you are Teachers of the Year, but that's not going to be the slant of the talk. That misses the point when it comes to teaching and training surgical residents. I don't want you to be the Teacher of the Year. My father was a football coach, and a dang good one. He was a fantastic teacher, but coaches are different than teachers. John Wooden, Vince Lombardi. They didn't shoot for Teacher of the Year. They got paid, they got evaluated. What they're trying to be is the Coach of the Year. Well, that makes sense. But we think about being the Coach of the Year, it's based on performance. And I really feel like I could have done better in my years at the Mayo Clinic. Yeah, I think I was a good teacher, but there was too many times where the learner didn't learn what I was trying to teach. And that's an important slant, and that's going to be my focus today, because the Coach of the Year typically is showing performance on the field. They're winning games. And whether you like him or not, they won a lot of games with Coach Ditka. And that's similar to the Mayo Clinic. We had a lot of surgeons that weren't voted Teacher of the Year, but quite honestly, I think the trainees may have learned more for long-term learning, and that's an important difference, and I feel bad about that. So I'm going to give this talk today that basically says it's not what you teach, it's but what they learn that counts, and that's going to be critically important. A little background before I get into my 3 recommendations. The human brain is the most amazing thing in the universe. There's more than 2 billion neurons in your brain. You have more than 15 trillion connections. Your memory is unlimited. You could remember every second of your life and put it in the brain. That is possible. The problem is we can't get it back out. We can't retrieve it. So the key thing for learning is we've got to be able to retrieve this experiences that we go through. And over the 40 years since I started out in college and medical school, the science of learning has advanced greatly. You know, we used to think IQ is fixed. You can't get smarter or better. Learning is changing. It's the process of learning leads to change in your brain, in your mind. The results all come from an experience. Surgery is cool. Experiences happen all the time. They happen in the operating room. They happen in the sim lab. They happen on rounds. They happen at M&M. They happen walking down the hall. You can give your learners memories, but they must create a memory in their own brain. You can't do that for them. Learning builds on the background of prior knowledge. So if you got a white neuron and a blue neuron, we got a connection. All right, we got some learning going on. But if this talk today doesn't change that pathway or any pathway in your body, then I haven't taught you anything. I've been the greatest talk in the history of surgery. And if nobody's neurons change, F, triple minus. One of my grading things in the operating room. But what I'm hoping today is you've got lots of neurons out there. You'll grab some particle and maybe make a connection that says, you know what, that idiot is right. I'm going to give that a shot. I'm going to make that work. So the key to learning is we got to make and then retrieve the memories. Give your learners experience. Let them code it into the brain. They're going to forget a bunch of it. That's okay. Forgetting is part of memory too. Then they're going to consolidate and retrieve that memory and try to put it back out. And the key is we've got to make these chemical transmissions between neurons. Nobody really knows how that happens, but it's an amazing thing when it does. So we've got to help our learners create neural pathways. Richard Mayer said it best, learning is not something done to students. It must be something students do themselves. Be a great teacher, but the bottom line is you've got to get your students to do it themselves. They've got to do the learning. So I asked the question, how do you make learning more efficient? Professors Bjork and UCLA talk about desirable difficulties. Get the learner to put more effort. That'll increase retention and increase retrievability. So I asked how to make it harder. I'm all good with that. I got a father that's a football coach and told us how to do stuff. I can make it harder. Well, I can make it harder for you right now. It's harder to see the word harder. You got to squint. You got to slow down. That's a desirable difficulty if you can read it. But if you can't read it, if it's so dark, that's an undesirable difficulty. So we've got to play this game of making sure our learners are in just the right spot. Make it hard, but not too hard. And there's 2 best ways of doing that, in my opinion. You got to test them, and you got to use spaced or what's called distributive learning. We're all learners. So it's not just the students I'm talking to. We're all learners here. The bottom line is we got to make it more effortful because we will retrieve those messages and memories better. So number one is testing. Professor Roediger out of Wash U talks about retrieval practice. He's got a wonderful book. I recommend it to all of you. Make it stick. People don't like the term quiz, exam, test, so he never uses that term. He just calls, okay, at the end of the year, we're going to do retrieval practice. That means a final exam, in case you didn't know. But it's retrieval practice. It sounds more acceptable. That can be anything. Make a trainee or ask a trainee to dictate an operative note. That's a challenge. That's a quiz. Get them to quiz themselves. It doesn't have to be you all the time doing this work or their peers. The idea is to get them to go into their brain and generate that memory. That's how they burn it in there for long term. So whatever it is you're doing, and testing is number one, it makes people go back into the brain to figure out what that is. Performing in the operating room, that's a test every day. A test gives a stronger memory, and it's easier to retrieve. We see this in our simulation center over and over again. I see people pause and ponder. Yes, I know something's happening. The neurons are clicking there. And when you do test somebody, don't wimp out. Make it effortful, the test. Multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, or essay. If you're on rounds or in a conference or whatnot, don't give multiple choice or true, false. The brain just gets to pick an answer. That's not a deep-seated memory. That's too easy. It's like when I read a book and I highlight a passage and I go back and read the highlight, oh yeah, I understand that. Faking yourself out. It's a big waste. Either give them fill in the blank, because they have to go back in and say, what this is the old guy thinking. And I had that on rounds all the time. Dr. Farley, I don't know what you're thinking. Well, it's a blank. Put a word in. Is it a good word or not a good word? Better yet, essay, open question. Tell me everything you know about the thyroid gland. And you'll really figure out what your learners know. And when it comes to surgical technique, you can give step-by-step instruction. I think that's probably what we should all be doing in the operating room, because it's the safest for the patient. But the truth is, if you want them to learn, you need trial and error. Step by step, they're just counting on that. The brain, it's like training wheels. You never take the training wheels off. So sim center, cadaver lab, rounds, all sorts of different things. You can do trial and error with your learners. The second key desirable difficulty is distributive learning. Richard Resnick and his group from Toronto took a group of trainees and basically said, what's the best thing to do? Blocked learning, 8 hours at a time? Dr. Brunt talked about this. Or we're going to block this up. We're going to have 4 2-hour sessions, and then we'll test them. They did this on microvascular anastomoses, on rat aortas. And they asked, is 4 2-hour sessions equivalent or better or worse than 1 8-hour block session? And it's not even close. Number one, if you ask learners, what's the best way to learn, they'll all pick block. It's efficient, it's fast, it's great. At the end of that session, I know this thing, I'm going to nail it. Well, they waited 1 month. The other group, they asked them about it. They didn't like it, didn't feel like they were any good. It's taken too long. I'm forgetting what we did last week. I don't know. But if you test them on that rat aorta anastomosis, it's no question. The 4 2-hour sessions, the performance will far exceed 1 8-hour session. And this happens over and over again. It's not one study. Distributive learning beats blocked learning. These people were faster, had more finesse, and objectively had a technically better anastomosis. So what were these 3 keys that I was going to talk about? Praising effort, offering feedback, and repeating challenge. And I am going to use others that are more expert than I to talk about those 3 things that I didn't really understand back in the 1980s when I first started out. Carol Dweck talks about mindset. A fixed mindset or a growth mindset. We all have these things in our brains of this mindset, but a fixed person that's dominated by that thinks their intelligence is static. Oh, I'm good. I'm good at anatomy, but I'm just not good at biochemistry. Hogwash. But that's what a fixed mindset thinks. They don't want to make a mistake. Yeah, I was a valedictorian. Somebody else here was a valedictorian. I was afraid of getting a B. And I had a fixed mindset. I'm going for the A. But it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay. The critical time in your life is not necessarily right now, but for somebody with a fixed mindset, I'm based right now on how good this presentation's going. Phooey. It's important tomorrow and the next week and the next month. My self-worth as a fixed mindset is defined by my performance. That's okay to a point. Talent, oh, I'm good at golf, well, then I can't be good at tennis. That's what a fixed mindset gets into and gets limited. And our learners, a bunch of them are going to have a fixed mindset that you're working with. On the other side, a growth mindset says intelligence, hey, I might not be the smartest today, but I'm going to be a heck of a lot more smart tomorrow because I'm going to work on it. And it's okay to make a mistake. I stumbled, I'm going to get up and I go again. The critical time in my life is the future. I'm planning for that. I'm working for that. My self-worth is not for this talk today or my performance on something else, but it's a compilation of things. And talent, there's no question that we can all improve. So what we need to do is all of us make up with fixed and growth concept, but some of us lean more toward the growth. And what we need is more general surgery trainees and more general surgery staff to move that curve a little bit more toward the growth side of things. Angela Duckworth talks about grit, passion and perseverance, long-term goals. And grit is nothing more than sustainable effort over time. When I look to match people in our training program as the program director, the key thing, I didn't know it was the word grit, but that's what I was looking for. I was looking for long-term success and effort. I want the third-string nose guard who gets beaten on all the time by the first-string offense to keep coming back. That's who I want in my training program. She suggests that effort is worth twice as much as talent. I'll go further. I think it's 3 or 4 or 5 times more important. Effort is an amazing thing, and we got to praise effort. So when you get an opportunity with a learner, remember, ability's not fixed. They might not have been that good right now. Intelligence is not fixed. Well, you can help make them smarter. But praise their effort because grit and surgery and effort are friends. What happens is praising effort is a long-term, a life-term thing that people are going to get. Many times in the operating room, I praise somebody. I said, that was phenomenal anastomosis. My goodness, you're gifted. It's incredible. That is not a good thing to do. Do not do that. Don't ever tell a surgery resident they're perfect. That's not good. They all make mistakes. But the idea is praise their effort. They get trapped if you tell them they're perfect or that was phenomenal. And I've seen this too many times. I say somebody, that was phenomenal anastomosis. Now let's work on this dissection in the upper quadrant. And they wither. They melted with a different challenge. It's like, what the heck happened? That was a lot harder than this. People have a different mindset. Don't be afraid to praise learner effort. I think of what happens out in life. How does a dandelion get through asphalt like that? How is that possible? It's got to be effort, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a fixed mindset student, you got to convert them over. It's okay to make a mistake. You're not good at this right now. I agree. I'm going to give you feedback and show you that. But doggone it, you're going to be better tomorrow. You need to be the coach for them so that at some point in time they realize, hey, this person's actually trying to help me out. If you're lucky enough to get those trainees, and Lord knows I've had a bunch of them that have a growth mindset, that are willing to make mistakes, willing to take a chance and take a challenge, they become Tiger Woods. They become Yo-Yo Ma. They become something that just exceed your expectations and blow me out of the water. I love it when people become a lot better surgeons than I ever was. It's just amazing over the course of time what things can do. How does a tree grow like that? How is that possible? I believe it's effort. And so what I'm asking you to do doesn't have to be long, couple seconds, couple sentences each day. Praise their determination. Praise the time that they're putting in. Praise their resilience. The process of what they're going through, studying. I can see you're working on this, Smith. Nice job. It's better. Not perfect, but it's better. Anders Ericsson died almost a year ago today. I miss that gentleman. What a fantastic researcher. He's done a lot of great work, and he will tell you, you got to give feedback. I know surgeons are busy in the operating room. A lot of us don't want to say and talk when we're operating. That's okay. It doesn't have to be in the operating. It could be some other time, walking down the hall. But if you never say anything, nobody's going to learn anything from you. The best feedback is individualized. Each one of those trainees wants to be special, and they are special. The feedback should be detailed. I was notorious at the Mayo Clinic for giving grades. A resident would do something, and I'd say, hey, that's an A move. Nice job. Well, that's detailed, that's feedback, but it's not really going to help them. They know they did a good job, but they're not sure what they did. I'm also happy to give F grades. Sometimes I get F minus, F double minus, and Jen, F triple minus. Sometimes people screwed it up. The cool thing about that, though, is I did that to myself. Whenever I did anything that wasn't right, I said, that was an F move. If I did something spotless and I said, all right, Dr. Farley with a B move, way to go. I think it's really important to give feedback to the young chess player, to the basketball player, to somebody that's going to do a trisegmentectomy. These are complex things. Immediate versus delayed feedback. If you're busy and stressed out in the OR, you don't have to give feedback then. You might apologize, hey, we're in crunch time here right now. Watch and help me here. We're going to talk about this later on. Ask me about that. The young woman who's a master chess player, by the way, when she makes a bad move, okay, take your rook and knock out her bishop. That's immediate feedback. The other thing to do is wait, end the game, and say, do you remember the key part in this game, why I beat you? And if she says, I don't know, I think it was something to do with the pawn. No, it was the rook. Can we go back and think about the rook or the bishop? Delayed feedback is okay. It's okay to give negative feedback because truthfully, it's better retained than positive feedback. But when you give constructive criticism, make sure it's constructive and not destructive. Don't give 1,000 pearls. People can only remember 1 or 2 or 3 things. Don't max out, especially with novice learners. It was a delight for me to work with interns for 25 years. They were gobbling it up, but I was nervous that I would always give them too much to gobble up and they would vomit later on and never get any of that thing. Try to make that feedback specific to them. Make them feel special, and we can do that. Surgery is a great thing to teach. Repeat the challenges. Dr. Bjork and his wife, desirable difficulties. That didn't exist when I was training in surgery in college. That's new research. Didn't know about that. Much like in surgery, bench-top to clinician takes 17 years. This stuff is just starting to come around, and I'm here hoping that some of you have never heard of it. Hey, think about this. Assessment or testing is the #1 thing for desirable difficulties. It's another opportunity to remember something and ingrain it in your brain. Sequential learning is the best way to do that. Some people would suggest teach and test and train today, and 2 days from now, ask them again. And 2 weeks from now, ask them again. And 2 months from now, ask them again. It's important. Deliberate practice, clarify their strengths, see the improvement. The more you test, the more both you and your trainee understand they get it or they don't get it. And it's okay if they don't get it, but now we know, and we can use deliberate practice to work on that problem. I'm watching TV tonight here with the Olympics. I can't imagine some of these people doing these things. I'd die trying to do what this young woman is doing. But the truth is, that's hard to do. It'd take a lifetime to do it. But it's the same thing for trisegmentectomy, a Whipple operation, an inguinal hernia, a belly button hernia, or cutting out a little mole on the skin. We have to repeat the challenges. And we shouldn't be afraid. At the Mayo Clinic, I had too many staff colleagues that would come to me as the program director. Hey, I don't want to harass my trainees. I don't want to really bug them. I don't want to be written up. I said, you're not asking them any questions. You're not challenging them. You're a phenomenal person, but you're a terrible teacher. Well, you're a terrible coach. That's what they really were. You need to step it up. 3 keys to better surgical improvement. You got to praise effort. You got to offer feedback. And you got to repetitively challenge people. In my closing time here, I'm going to give you 2 useful examples that I think you might be able to use, or some variant thereof. And if you've got better stuff, I'd like to hear it because I want to continue to teach people. When it comes to surgical conferences at the Mayo Clinic, on Monday we had a chief conference, on Wednesday we had M&M, and on Fridays we had basic science. If you make some point at your chief conference, Hinchy 1 doesn't need to be admitted, no antibiotics, if that's a really critical fact and it's worth remembering, if they're going to recall that, then take 2 minutes or 1 minute before your M&M conference. Hey, before we get started with M&M, anybody can tell me about Hinchy? Anybody know anything about it? Make it open-ended. Don't make it multiple choice. But ask them something. If it's really important, talk about 2 days from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now. Same thing with M&M. If somebody popped a mucinous appendiceal mass, hey, that's a big deal. And if your pearl of wisdom was put that stapler a little bit more on the cecum and do not pop that thing, or you got to open it up or do something, then don't be afraid to just give it at 1 M&M. Give it at 2. Give it at 3. A short burst of a challenge. Same thing with basic science. You need to test for catecholamines before you operate on an adrenal mass. That's a life-threatening problem. That needs to be known. Interns aren't going to remember that with one trial. Most people need 7 shots at remembering something. Ultimately, what we really need to do is to get learners, ourselves, and our trainees on their time away at night, just to stop and think about it. Surgeons rarely stop and say, what did I learn at M&M today? Hinchy 1, oh, that's terrible, there's pus all. No, that's not right. And then they're gonna go back and read. That will be a more retrievable memory. Don't be afraid to sequentially test them. And the last thing that I'll offer you with is what we call our welcome package at the Mayo Clinic. We started this in 2015, and we basically sent a package that had some low-cost models, a needle driver, scissors, forceps, suture, whatnot. And we told them, here's some resources, and we're going to test you when you come in on what we call our surgical Olympics, 16 stations. And some of these things, if you practice on, you'll do better, and you'll be a better physician to start with. We sent them that. I did not praise any of their effort. I did not give them any feedback. And I challenged them once to say, hey, here's this package. You're going to compete in the Olympics on July 1st against your peers. Good luck. And that's what we did in 2015. In 2016, we sent the package, and we also told them, we're going to give you a little video feedback, and we ask a little something from you. So I got to praise effort. I'm going to offer feedback, and I'll repeat the challenges. As a football coach's son, I've watched as much game film as anybody on the planet. My dad used to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to find out what people were doing right and doing wrong. Here's Woody Hayes from Ohio State looking at film. Video is a cool thing. Some of you may not like it, but my plea to you underneath this is don't be afraid to record what you're doing and then maybe put a little voiceover, because you'll be surprised what you get. I get notes from Ghana and Cambodia and Laos. People in the middle of the night send me a note, your videos helped us save a life last night. Dang, I slept well last night. I also did something else for somebody else. Don't be afraid to use video. This is Peyton Manning as a college quarterback for Tennessee. He's watched more game film than anybody. He comes up to the line and he knows what he's going to do. The cool thing is his coach can say, loved your effort there, didn't like what you did. Now I'm going to play this video and stop it. Now what should we do? Suddenly it's an open-ended question. This is an objective assessment. This is going to retain this. The NFL does this all the time, and in fact, Gruden's got a TV show. I love this show. I can see people learning. Mandel didn't learn much, but the idea is, ultimately, you can learn with video. Don't be shy about that. So the 3 keys to better learning, being a coach, effort, feedback, and challenges. I got to get back to my welcome package. This is what we did. Take your iPhone, video record. You got to close this 10-centimeter wound with a subcuticular closure. You have 5 minutes. Send us the 5-minute video, please. We sent this to 30 interns. They sent us the video. I had my education team clip out 60 seconds. I let them just get started on tying the knot, and the next 60 seconds is all I looked at. So 30 interns, 60 seconds. It cost me 30 minutes. One evening, I stayed a little later, and I did a voiceover. So I said, for somebody like this, I like your index finger down the shaft. That's going to give stability. That's great. I don't like the way you're holding that Adson forceps. It's at a right angle. Get that forceps out into your fingertips. That's where your nerves are. That's going to work better. Get your ring finger out of that loop. Get your thumb out of that loop. You can't pronate and supinate properly. And then I would say, hey, good effort. Give me more. And I would see some people that would make up their own model, or they found some extra suture, or they did something different. Hey, I see that. I love your effort. So that's what we did. March is week 0. That's match day. We sent out the resources. 3 weeks, they sent us a video back. The next day, we sent them a video of their feedback. And then we got them to submit again, voiceover again, submit again, voiceover again. Unlike 2015, they got the resources, good luck, and go for it. Again, we got to think about feedback, challenges. What are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to get learners, and they're making an effort to do this, and you've got to praise the effort to do this. But it was a short effort. And the ultimate thing is, ladies and gentlemen, when we look at our surgical Olympics, one group was far better than the other. When it came to this subcuticular closure, the group from 2016 was much faster, statistically more cosmetic, and the knots were more secure. It's this tiny little effort, but it made a big difference. It also made a difference with other stations we did this with. Evaluating a blood gas, reading a chest x-ray. Ultimately, it was a phenomenal, mini little thing that taught me these 3 things are what I want to tell you today. Praise the effort. Effort is critical. Performance happens today, it's dead, it's dying. But effort is going to last a lifetime. Offering feedback. Everybody wants to be like you. They want to think like you, they want to operate like you. So you've got to give them some feedback. I know you're reluctant, and I know you're time constrained, but don't be shy about giving feedback. Repeat the challenges. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative, but always there's going to be a test. There's always going to be assessment. I want to know performance. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to be the president of this association and give this talk, but I don't want you to be the teacher of the year this year. I really don't. It's a great award, but it's oftentimes a personality contest. What I really want you to be is the coach of the year. And whether you like them or not, they don't have to be loving, but they have to get the performance out of your learners. And so what I'm asking you to do is get the best out of the young men and women that want to be just like you. Thank you for your attention.